recording. This is the Board Building Standards hearing for Thursday, November 18th. Sam, are you in the room? Do you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Sam, I'm Wayne Miller, board member.
I'm Amy Rivera, board member.
Ed August, board member.
Deborah-
Thomas Rabikowski, City of Philadelphia, License and Inspections.
Deborah Richardson, Boards Administration.
And Jay Scaria, Department of License and Inspections.
Sam, being you're testifying in this hearing, could you please raise your right hand? Swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay. Sam?
Yes.
Sam?
Yes.
Yes, okay, good. All right, Jace, take over.
Okay, this is BBS case number MI-2021-004530 for 1408 South Clarion Street. For the record, can you please state your name?
Samuel Fulginetti.
Thomas Rabikowski, City of Philadelphia, License and Inspections.
Okay, Tom, you want to start us off?
So this property has a timetable of, or a time frame that the initial notice of violation was issued against the property in October of 2018. Property was declared unsafe due to fracturing and bulge of the front wall. Upon inspecting the property and recent inspections, the deterioration of the property has continued in that there is a collapse of the rear fence wall and a partial collapse of the rear shed of the property itself. In communicating with the owner of the property, he has made reference that he has or is obtaining the services of an engineer design professional, and they are coming up with a plan of submitting for a make safe permit for the repair of the property. That make safe permit has to be pulled under the terms of that engineer's report, which needs to detail the structural concerns of the property. It's my recommendation for the board to grant a variance for 45 days in order for the owner to obtain the permit and start the repair of the property.
Okay, Sam, are you good with that?
Yes.
Okay. All right, that's good. If you you got 45 days to get the permit, and once you get the permit, continue working until you're finished to make it safe. Okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, Sam, good job. Thanks.
I thank all of you. Thank you.
All right. Wish they were all that easy.
Stop recording.
All right, what do we got?
Okay.
What do we got? I had to step out.
This is a hearing for Upland.
Oh, okay, all right. We got to go through the whole procedure?
Yes.
All right, Wayne Miller, board member.
Amy Rivera, board member.
Ed August, board member.
John Dimes, Fire Code.
Deborah Richardson, Boards Administration.
Thomas
Okay.
Rabikowski, City of Philadelphia, License and Inspections.
Jay
Okay,
Scaria,
whoever's testifying, please raise your right hand. Swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Good, okay. Jace, take it away.
All right, this is BBS case number MI-2021-004725 for 6115 Upland Street. For the record, can you state your name?
Thomas Rabikowski, City of Philadelphia, License and Inspections.
Okay, so this person did not show up. And what we're saying, he has 30 days to get a permit to start work. If he doesn't get the permit in 30 days, you knock the building down. Okay, because that's what it was prior to that. So we'll send a notice out to him, and he's got 30 days from today to get a permit to start work.
Plus an engineer's report to detail the work that was done to the property and a permit to legalize the work.
Okay,
Okay.
got it? All right,
The
it's
appellant's
good.
name was Marvin
Myers.
for 6115 Upland Street.
I'm going to ask that the decision letter has failure to appear. The ruling of the board is whatever.
Okay.
Yes,
One clarification. If he submits for the permit with the engineer's report saying everything has been complied with, Does L&I still send somebody out to do a final inspection? Or do they take the engineer's word for that?
We don't have a issued permit to inspect against. So, or any approved drawings to inspect against. So we would take that report of the engineer depending upon what that report detailed. I mean, if it was one sentence, then we would be like, well, there's a lot more repair that needed to be done to this property.
Okay. Thanks.
All right,
All right, end recording.
okay, I'm Wayne Miller, board member.
Amy Rivera, board member.
Ed August, board member.
John Dimes, Fire Code.
Deborah Richardson, Boards Administration.
Jace Korea, Department of License and Inspections.
Okay, anybody going to testify in this case, please raise your right hand. Swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, Jace, take it away.
All right, this is BBS case number MI-2021-004767 for 807 Corinthian Avenue. For the record, can you please state your name?
Michael Mattioni.
Eric, can you just state your name for the record?
Yes, Eric Bargnoli.
And
Okay,
whoever's on Logan's phone?
Sure, Logan Dry.
okay, whoever's going to present the case, go ahead.
Sure. Good afternoon, Michael Mattioni. I'm the attorney for Eric Bargnoli, the owner of the property, and Logan Dry, the architect, is also on. This property is a longstanding multifamily property. It's always been a multifamily structure. One time it was 4 units. Most recently, it's been 3 units. Eric bought the property and looked at it and decided he would like to try and renovate the property by demolishing part of the rear of the property. This property is an old property. It's never had sprinklers. It's had limited life safety features in it because it's an old existing property. So he applied for and got a permit to demolish. He has not done the demolition yet. And then to reconstruct basically the 3-unit property that already exists there. And if he does this reconstruction, it would be hardwired. It would have smoke and carbon monoxide detectors, fire alarm system with strobe lights, audible warnings, pull stations, fire extinguishers in each unit, and it would reduce the number of window openings, and there would be new sheetrock as well throughout. In addition, he would have a sprinkler system that would be NFPA 13, not NFPA 13R, meaning that there would be additional sprinkler heads as compared to the typical residential service. Every single property on the block is similarly situated in that there is no rear access from any of them. And there are many multifamily structures on the block as well. We're just trying to reconstruct what's already there, but with better systems in it, better life safety features, and just better new construction. Could have left it alone and doesn't have to do anything, would have 3-unit structure. It has bedrooms in the rear as it exists, but he would rather demolish the old part of the building, reconstruct it, keep the front part. There's no way to create access to Corinthian Avenue. There's a structure there, and it's in a row of structures. If you look down, there's only one property that's on a double lot that doesn't have this same situation. And we believe that with the additional safety features that would be added in new construction, you'd have a much better situation than what presently exists there. It would be vastly improving life safety, et cetera. So, Logan's here, can talk a little if you have any questions, or Eric, if you have any questions. It's a simple case. That's what he would like to do, vastly improve what's already there, make it a safer, better property. We can't create rear access. There's no way to do it. There's no alley in the back. If you look on the map for the that the city has showing where alleys are, there are no alleys back there. This is both on Corinthian and Capitol Streets, the houses that back up to each other. There's other multifamily structures, 803, 815, 827 on Corinthian. The others are single families, but they still have the same status, and some of them even have much smaller rear yards than this property would have. So, and it's zoning code compliant in terms of open area and lot coverage and those issues. So we just think that his getting a permit, the building permit, to do what he would like to do, would vastly improve the situation compared to what's already there. So that's where we are, and there's not a lot to say beyond that.
810, Reagan back here. Is that a lot back there and there's an alleyway out to Capitol Street?
There is no, Eric can talk through the conditions better, but from what I could find, there was no alley. The only alleys are way down at the other end of the block and they don't go anywhere. They serve the properties on, I guess it's Fairmount Avenue. So, but Eric can speak to that a little bit as well.
Yes, there's another residential structure that backs up, but there's no alley access for any of the properties on that 800 block of North Corinthian.
Did we think we seen an 810 Capitol Street from the back of their house? Is there an alley there?
Well, it's a private alley, but there is an alley. If you could get some sort of an agreement with 810 North Capitol Street to access their rear yard in an emergency, so somebody could get out.
Because there's certainly no deeded, as you said, there's certainly no deeded alley anywhere back there. Nobody has any
No, there's not.
alley.
Well, your backyard backs up to 810, am I right?
Yes.
Okay, and how far is that gated or anything there in the up to the house, or is it just open?
There's a fence that separates my rear yard from the Capitol Street property's rear yard, so they're not connected. They're separate yards.
Yeah,
We're
just
trying to find a way that you could get into, Capitol Street and up to there in an emergency, and then you would be fine. But if you can't, then it becomes a problem.
It's what's it. I mean, it's the existing conditions on the entire street.
So basically, just to kind of summarize here. So one of the reasons why we decided to proceed with the building board route versus another option would be getting permission from those two neighbors to use their private breezeway. We weren't able to get. Obviously, if the building that we were making, if we knocked it down and did a new construction building, we wouldn't be here because we would provide some sort of breezeway or some sort of side yard on our property. But because, the way the building's constructed, the front half goes full width and the back half of our building, kicks in for an air light. The only way to get any sort of access back out to Corinthian Street would be essentially to remove, that portion of the building in front of us that runs full width. So again, it was really having to do with the existing building constraint, obviously the lack of alley in the back that, anybody could use from the lots backing up on Corinthian Street. And then, the inability to get that, agreement from the neighbors to use their private breezeway, that's sort of where we ended up here.
That leaves us with the issue in the back, with not getting in through the back with putting that addition on. So that makes it difficult for us.
Are you saying you did speak with the neighbors on Capitol Street?
We had a brief conversation, but they didn't seem to be interested in giving an access agreement or adding any easement to my deed. But I guess we're just kind of at the point where the reason that we're demolishing the rear portion of the building was because it was in such poor condition where it was exposed to the elements compared to the front portion of the building, which was sheltered from the elements on both sides from the neighboring properties. So that's kind of what triggered the whole thing. And, we had Logan and the engineer out. They determined that they thought the rear portion of the building was not necessarily salvageable in its current condition. Otherwise we would have just left the building as it was. We wouldn't, be here. We would have just left the building. But that's why we brought up the point about the sprinkler service being a 13 versus 13R with the additional heads. And prior to me purchasing the property, it was occupied. with no sprinkler service. So, yeah, that's why we brought that point up.
And it's not an addition, it's a replacement of the existing structure. It's not something new. I mean, it's new construction, but it's not making the rear yard any bigger or smaller. It's just replacing what's already there with a modern building. But it's the existing conditions.
Is there any other way, Jace, that you can think of? Just move the bedrooms to the front? I don't know.
Yeah,
It's only a 16-foot wide property, though. That's the other problem. I mean, you can have a bedroom in the front, and you try and cut it in two, you have 8-foot wide bedrooms. I mean, they don't really work.
Well, the only option they have are putting the bedrooms in the front of the building so that they have access to a public right of way. Either get access from 810 Capitol Street or provide a egress alleyway like Logan said on the first floor level, but putting that in there would reduce the first floor level down to like 8 feet, I think. So yeah, I don't see any ways around it, to be honest with you.
For the caucus?
Sure.
Okay. Could you put the guys in the waiting room, please? Deb,
You can pause the recording.
Yes,
they're in now.
thank you. We're good.
Here's what we can come up with. If you could move that bedroom in the cellar up to the front, put the back wall and the side wall, 1 hour rating, and sprinkler heads over the back windows will be fine. If you could do that.
Thank you.
So there would
Okay,
be no
guys?
egress well into the backyard anymore. The egress well would have to be out the front.
Right.
Okay.
Because we don't want someone in a bedroom in the back of the basement to come out in an emergency and be stuck in a backyard. We'd rather them get out the front.
No,
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Okay?
Eric,
All right, guys?
Eric, you're
Thank
gonna need to go back to streets department because you're putting that egress well in the public right away, okay?
Okay. All right. Yeah. Thanks for the heads up on that. Appreciate it.
right, guys.
Corinthian's a big sidewalk that you shouldn't have a problem with it.
It is, it is. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Good luck,
Yeah,
guys.
thank you.
Thanks,
Appreciate
guys.
it. Thank you.
Okay.
You can end recording.
And that's everyone from the waiting room. So
Okay.
we are recording now, so we're good. Let's just make sure there's one more person still connecting.
Okay.
Hello, everybody.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi, Brian.
You have
How are you?
everybody?
Yes, just for the record, so everyone knows, everyone has to mention their name on the record after Wayne speaks. Thank you.
Okay, good. I'm Wayne Miller, board member.
Amy Rivera, board member.
Ed August, board member.
Deborah Richardson, Boards Administration.
Jace Correa, Department of License and Inspections.
And John Dimes from the fire department will be checking in a second. The thing is, okay, anybody going to testify in the hearing, please raise your right hand. Swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Jace, take it over.
Okay, this is a BBS case number MI-2021-004772 for 1200 Normandy Place. And we also have BBS case number MI-2021-004770 for 1200 Normandy Place. For the record, can you please state your name?
I'm Tom Witt of Cozen O'Connor, attorney for the Ensemble Mosaic joint venture, which is the designated developer for the Navy Yard. And we have been authorized by PAID, the property owner, to seek the approvals for this development. Should the rest of the people in this room introduce themselves now? Is that what you would like?
Yes.
Please.
Yes.
Tom Freeze with Pannoni Associates. John Aaron, Moody and Nolan. Mark Sanderson with Digsaw.
David Gale with Digsaw.
Joel Kennedy with Ensemble Mosaic.
Brian Cohen with Ensemble Mosaic.
And then with our room,
We
I'm
have any-
Susan Earp with Moody Nolan.
Craig Rutkowski with Moody Nolan.
Dan Bosbrook with Moody Nolan.
And
Dylan. Sorry about that.
Right? Everybody give us your name. Everybody said, go ahead.
Bob Careless with Cozen O'Connor.
Okay,
Kate Miller with Code Consultants.
okay,
I'm David Lewis with Code Consultants.
okay. I guess that's everybody. So whoever's going to present the case, go ahead.
Tom Witt from Cozen O'Connor, attorney. We have really two issues here. One of them is the so-called unity of use issue, the fact that this lot to be developed with two buildings consists of 3 tax parcels. That's number one. And I will address that. Number two is that we are using an easement for fire separation purposes between our building and the chapel that exists in the Navy Yard. We have an easement from PAID, which owns all of the property here, to provide the fire separation between our building and the chapel. And the CCI people, I believe Kate, but either Kate or Dave Lewis of CCI will address that. If it's okay with you, let me go to the so-called unity of use issue.
Gotcha.
There are 3 tax parcels here. They are to be improved with 2 buildings, which constitute one development of approximately 600, more than 600 apartments. This is the first residential development in the Navy Yard. We're very excited about it. We are in a desperate race with the abatement because this is a very complicated project that includes mixed income housing and the use of the low income housing tax credit. So the financing is very complex and very thin, as you might imagine, as there always are in these transactions. And so the abatement deadline of December 31st represents a terrible obstacle to moving forward with this project. For that reason, we are moving as quickly as we possibly can to obtain the building permit so we can make the abatement application by December 31st. Now, the 3 tax parcels could well be consolidated into one, but if we had put that in our timeline, we would not have nearly enough time to get to the building permit by December 31st. That would be an impossibility. I most recently had that exact same situation, not involving the abatement, but involving the tenant's lease requirements at the Morgan Lewis building at 2222 Market Street. And we were before you on that building. Now, we were before you on 2 things. One was our relationship to the Liberty Bar building at 2204 Market, and the other was our south property line, which was on Ludlow Street, a very narrow street. That property, when it came before you, was sitting on 11 tax parcels. And we got the steel to the 6th or 7th floor before we completed the consolidation. And the reason we did it in that order was that if we had taken all the time for the consolidation in the beginning of the process, we would not have been able to meet the tenant's lease schedule. And in this case, it's the same situation. If we tried to put the consolidation at the beginning of the process, we could not possibly meet the abatement schedule that we have here. Now, it's our view that the code definition of a lot does not deal with tax parcels. It doesn't express the term tax parcels. The zoning code is similar in that it does not express tax parcels. I know L&I loves to use them, and there's good reason for that, and I understand that administratively. But the law ought to be that where an owner, in this case PAID, says that my 3 tax parcels are one lot, that should be sufficient for the other code purposes. And L&I recognizes that for zoning purposes, and I believe L&I is inconsistent on that for building code purposes. It recognized it at Morgan Lewis. It recognized it at St. Rita, at Broad and Ellsworth. I drove past it today. That building's sitting there today on 3 tax parcels, and the developers don't have the money to do a consolidation, may never do one. So it's our view that you either ought to rule that this is permitted, because it's one owner, one lot, the tax parcels aren't the key driver, or that you should grant the variance because all of the things that the code cares about are protected. There's no fire issue here, there's no safety issue here, and we ought to be able to go forward. There is truly a hardship in the sense that if we lose any time, our ability to have this, the abatement benefit will disappear. That's what I have to say on the unity of use. I don't know if you want to turn to the CDC people on the other issue or discuss that. I leave that to you.
Why don't we discuss this first, just briefly? We see this quite often. And while we typically don't take the attitude that we're going to rule that it should be allowed by code, we're not addressing that. We typically do recognize it as long as the life safety issues are, addressed, and we're comfortable dealing with this as one, as if it were one property.
I'm going to then defer to the CDC people. Do you want to hear from them on the CCI people on the
other issue? Yeah.
I would like to see somebody present the plans.
Yeah, let me share my screen here. Okay. Can you all see my screen?
Yes,
Yeah.
you can.
Okay, so yeah, so this is what we were just talking about with the zoning and, these three parcels being consolidated into one at this time through this unity of use for one zoning lot purpose. The easement that we were discussing. So this graphic is to show how, from a building and life safety standpoint, we're going to handle the lot lines between our parcel and the existing chapel. So usually the lot lines are used to determine the required exterior wall ratings and maximum percentage of unprotected openings that an exterior wall of a building can have. Although we're not using, I pulled this exception from the 2018 IBC, and although we're not using this exception because neither one of our buildings encroaches upon, so here's our existing chapel. Here is one of the new proposed building B, here's new proposed building A, and we've got, a lot line that exists between the chapel and our building. So again, pulled this from one of the recent editions of the IBC, and neither one of our buildings in this case is encroaching upon the established lot line. However, this is just kind of an example of how the code is starting to recognize these easements and contractual agreements between owners on adjacent lots. So essentially what this exception allows for is, when you've got two owners, as long as they draw up contractual agreements, they're permitted to use each other's land and to access each other's land for the purpose of maintaining fire and life safety systems. So again, it's not the exact condition we have here, but it is showing that the code is starting to recognize these types of agreements. So what we're proposing to do between these two parcels is, and we've already established, and I believe it's been submitted, a 30-foot no-build easement. This blue line here represents the boundary between the proposed buildings and the existing chapel. So within this 30-foot wide no-build easement, we're going to establish an imaginary line with which we can measure fire separation distance of both the new buildings and the existing buildings for the purpose of trying to determine the rating of our exterior walls and the maximum percentage of openings we can have. The reason that we do this is to deal with exposure fire or fire jumping from one lot to the next. So where we've assumed this imaginary property line within the no build easement, it allows this green section here is showing what we're giving our chapel. We're giving our chapel slightly over 10 feet. The existing chapel is type 5B construction, and the code says that where a 5B building has at least 10 feet of fire separation distance, we are not required to rate the exterior walls. When we don't have to rate the exterior walls, it goes without saying that we can obviously have unlimited openings. So with maintaining at least 10 feet to our imaginary lot line here, we're not affecting the existing chapel, not affecting its exterior walls. So
Hey,
we've
Kate, real quick, could you just
Sure.
point out to the board where the actual property line is and maybe just mention what the code requirements based on that would be?
Yes, so the actual property line is this. Let me see if I can draw on here. Yeah. Pull that up. Okay, my tools have gone away.
We can see it.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
I think they could see it.
Cool. Okay, so that's the actual line there, which again sits in fairly close proximity to the east wall of the proposed building. So again, what we're attempting to do with the no build easement is, make it so that neither building can build any closer to the other one, and establish the line in the middle of the no build easement, using that line to measure fire separation distance. Okay, so we just went over the 10 feet that we're giving the chapel. We are allowing both of the new buildings here, we're going to allow a little over 15 feet. Both of these buildings are employ a podium concept. So, without getting too much into the weeds of that, we're essentially 1A construction below the podium. And both buildings, again, to the imaginary line here, will have a little over 15 feet, which means we will have 1 hour rated exterior walls, and we'll limit our unprotected openings to 75%. The buildings above the podium are type 3A. The buildings above the podium will also have this 15 feet, and although they're only required to be 1 hour rated, we're actually going to have a 2 hour rated exterior wall above our podium, because we're type 3 construction, and 2 hour exterior non-combustible exterior walls are required for type 3 construction. So this is the concept that we were hoping to present. Again, the 30-foot no build easement, and in the middle of that, establishing our imaginary line while giving both of our buildings, the appropriate fire separation distance in order to, in the chapel's case, maintain unrated exterior walls. And then in the new buildings, we'll have rated exterior walls and slightly limit the openings.
Right, and this is very, very similar to what's allowed by Chapter 5 when you have two buildings on the same lot, meaning on the same property, and basically assuming an imaginary property line between the two buildings, even though it's on the same property, for determining exterior wall rating and opening protection. The code doesn't dictate that line has to go right down the middle between the two buildings, so the designer has the flexibility really to establish that line wherever they want within the space between the two buildings. So it's a very similar concept here, with trying to establish basically the no build easement.
And so the fact that the 15.1 and the 10.1, 25.2 less than the 30 feet is the remainder of that sort of, going toward the chapel, the existing building. I'm assuming that 30 feet is sort of starting at the, let's say if this is north up southeast corner of of building B, and I guess also the kind of tangent line at the southeast corner of building A as well up above. Does that sound right? I mean, kind of your.
The 30 feet.
I'm not, you're trying to account for the extra. So essentially here,
Yeah,
you're saying we've got about 25 feet.
Right.
So yeah, I think in Moody Nolan, can you confirm, the other, 5 feet and some change?
Yeah, we had started the process for the easement prior to getting into the weeds of where that imaginary lot line would be. So we had started that process, which I think is already in the process of being recorded, that easement, if it hasn't been recorded to date. So as we got into the details of what those requirements are, we need less than that 30 feet. So we actually only need 25 feet, 2 inches.
Got it. Yeah. Well. And you actually have more than 30 feet between buildings at any given time and point. So
That's correct.
Yeah. So essentially, we just wanted to.
Are we saying to the board that there is the possibility that that PAID would narrow that easement to the sum of 15.1 and 10.1? If we're saying that to the board, I just want that to be clear to the board.
I think what we're saying is the 30 feet is more than what we actually needed
Okay.
from a
But
code.
we're keeping a 30-foot easement as far as the board's concerned. That's
Yeah.
okay.
Yes, that is.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, what's in question?
That 30 feet is measured from the property line.
Correct.
Chase, you have any problems with that?
No, they're providing the easement. I'm guessing they're in the process of recording it. I'm guessing their exterior wall openings on both buildings are under 75% then, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, you said that.
Yeah, 1 hour, not less than 1 hour rating, and we will. I don't think the unprotected openings even exceed 60%.
Okay. Yeah, we're okay with that.
All right. You all right with that, Aim?
Yes.
Ted?
I'm good.
Okay, I'm good. What
John,
else?
John or Julian, any?
Yeah, no, yeah, I'm good. I'm fine. It looks good.
Okay, that's everything, right?
Everything.
Okay.
Yes, that's for both buildings, that's everything.
May we just remind you that we're in a desperate race for this building permit, so we would appreciate the earliest possible report to the commissioner.
All right, so the way that this process works is after the board writes the variance, it goes to the commissioner. Once the commissioner signs off, then it gets a plan examiner, Richard Chen. Richard will approve everything as long as all the prerequisites have been addressed and you address those other items as well. So as long as you address all the items, I don't see any issues.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Good luck, guys.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Okay. All right.
Stop recording.
Yeah, stop recording. When Nate consolidated